Gordon Ryan will never transition to MMA, and in this video, I'm going to talk about the reasons why I believe this to be true. I want to make it clear that I'm not a Gordon Ryan hater, nor is this video against him, though some of the reasons might make it seem that way. I'm actually a huge fan of Gordon. I think what he's done in the sport of jiu-jitsu is something to behold, and most everyone in the community respects the guy, and we all recognize what he's done. Short recap on Gordon Ryan for those who need it. He is widely regarded as the greatest no-gi grappler of all time and has not lost a pro match since 2018 against Vinny Magalhaes via points. And they have not faced each other since, although they were supposed to in December of 2022, but Vinny had to pull out due to medical issues. Gordon is a very polarizing figure and talks all the crap he can, all of the time, to all of the other top jiu-jitsu players in the world. I think that sums him up pretty nicely, and I think that's enough about Gordon himself, and now I will discuss the reasons why I think he will never make a transition to MMA. Reason number one being something Gordon has stated many times in multiple different interviews over the years, being that if he were to ever leave the sport of jiu-jitsu, someone else from his own team would have to start dominating jiu-jitsu like he does.
You're putting on gloves or anything. Is there still any future for you inside mixed martial arts, or are you just solely grappling?
Yeah, maybe if I wanted, with one of my teammates actually win an ADCC Absolute, and I can just kind of like give it to them.
He wants them winning ADCC Absolutes, super fights, and I can only assume that he wants them to be winning these matches in dominant fashion, such as writing down the submission they are going to use to finish their opponent with, put it in an envelope and give it to the ref before the match, and then have them reveal it at the end, similar to what he did against Wagner Rocha in March of 2021. Like I said, he's been saying this for a while now, and I believe this won't happen anytime soon, just because he might have had the best chance of getting this outcome when the Danaher Death Squad was still a team. The Danaher Death Squad contained many of the sport's current top athletes who were all coached by John Danaher, and he honestly deserves his own video because the guy is such a wizard. This team consisted of Craig Jones, who's one of the top black belts in the world right now, with 3 consecutive ADCC silver medals, which, if you don't know Craig Jones, it's kind of his thing to get second place. Nicky Rod, who's known as the black belt slayer and having a crazy run in ADCC as a blue belt, faced Gordon in the finals of ADCC and lost via heel hook just a couple minutes into the match.
He really has heel exposure here. Now he does. He's got heel exposure.
And Gordon Ryan!
Yes, they did just face each other on Fight Pass, but it was still very clear Nicky Rod didn't have the type of game to totally compete with Gordon, whether it be the greasing accusations or that he wasn't engaging very much, but I don't think anyone can fault him on that because Gordon wasn't doing much either. The Danaher Death Squad also had his own brother Nicky Ryan and Ethan Crestline, who is a lightweight combat jiu-jitsu world champion. My point being, these guys have been in the game and they are already at the top, and if Gordon were to leave jiu-jitsu right now, these guys have a strong chance of carrying that flag in jiu-jitsu. And Gordon's new gym, New Wave Jiu-Jitsu, has some young studs including Big Dan and Luke Griffith, but they're still way too young to dominate like Gordon. I'm not saying they aren't capable, I'm just simply stating it will be a while before we see that. The second reason being John Danaher himself. If someone were to ask Gordon, how did you get so good at jiu-jitsu? He would 100% give the credit to his longtime coach, John Danaher. According to Gordon, John has never been wrong about anything as far as he's concerned, and he will always consider what John has to say as the correct thing to do. John believes that jiu-jitsu itself is right on the edge of breaking into mainstream sports where the athletes will be getting paid more, the events will be getting bigger, the viewership will go up, and all of that good stuff. John says that Gordon is at the forefront of everything jiu-jitsu, basically the Michael Jordan of the sport. The level John puts into his students is second to none. Every time his students have major accomplishments, he gives them a custom knife made specifically for them. So far, John is the best competitive no-gi coach in the sport today.
He's recognized widely as one of the greatest jiu-jitsu trainers of all time.
No question. And Gordon obviously recognizes that. So if he were to ever leave the sport to focus on MMA, yes, he would still have John coaching him in jiu-jitsu, but it would be a different type of training. Lots of fence wrestling would be introduced, and the defense would be a lot different since you have to worry about strikes. A lot of Gordon's jiu-jitsu game is based on countering whatever his opponent does. I'm not saying Gordon can't engage, but I do believe he plays it his way, and most of the time it's capitalizing on his opponent's mistakes. Overall, I think John plays a big enough role in Gordon's life to influence his decision on switching his focus to MMA instead of jiu-jitsu, and right now, John thinks Gordon should be all in on jiu-jitsu. Another huge reason I believe Gordon would not leave the sport of jiu-jitsu is due to the massive amounts of money he is receiving. He is by far the highest paid athlete in the sport. From what I could find online that seems to be true, is Gordon's estimated net worth is about $2 to $3 million. At the beginning of the year, Gordon signed a 7-figure contract with Flow Sports, the subscription sports broadcasting and streaming service, to compete under their Who's Number One tournament series. Who's Number One is basically one of the biggest platforms where jiu-jitsu athletes can compete and showcase their skills. Now, surface level, it's very clear that Gordon is at the very least wealthy compared to most people's standards. Just one look on his Instagram and you can see that he has a nice big expensive home that he loves to show off. Same thing with his car collection that he likes to talk about extensively. Gordon is a marketing genius, and I'm sure he has multiple avenues of income that aren't known, but some of the biggest known moneymakers are teaching seminars, tournaments, sponsors, super fights, and most of all, instructionals. Gordon went on the Joe Rogan Experience back in September of 2022 and stated that an instructional takes 1 weekend to make, and over the course of a year will make him $1 million.
I spend a weekend in Boston filming an instructional, and over the course of a year, it'll make me $1 million. And it's just 1 weekend of work for...
Instructionals, for those who don't already know, they're long format videos of someone explaining and breaking down in great detail certain moves or techniques in jiu-jitsu. The main way to purchase Gordon's instructionals is through bjjfanatics.com, and as of now, while I'm making this video, he has about 30 instructionals available, with the cheapest being priced at $150 and the single most expensive instructional being priced at $350. This excludes the option to purchase a bundle of videos, which is priced at $999. I couldn't find exact release dates on these instructionals, but after going through the comments and seeing the oldest comments posted date, I could base it off of that. Not exact, but it'll do. With this, I could assume Gordon released 5 instructionals over the course of 2022, which by his numbers would make him somewhere around $5 million. Now, I do believe that each of these instructionals will generate $1 million over the course of a year. Not necessarily all of them. On Gordon's Instagram, he often advertises his instructionals being on sale, so realistically, I can see all of these instructionals together definitely generating a few $1 million. Now, all of this is unprecedented. A jiu-jitsu athlete has never came close to the type of money Gordon is making. Him making this much money elevates the sports of jiu-jitsu on its own. This opens the door for a lot more athletes in the sport to make real money that they can live off of just from competing. It used to be that the goal for most jiu-jitsu athletes to make black belt, then open up their own school and win big tournaments so students would want to attend their academy. Gordon is changing things by making it possible for jiu-jitsu athletes to make enough money to live off of, and therefore elevating the sport because athletes will be able to focus more time, energy, and resources to training jiu-jitsu. Now, if he were to transition into MMA, he wouldn't make as nearly as much as he does in the sport of jiu-jitsu. Maybe a promotion like PFL or Bellator would give him a very generous contract, but for him to make the type of money he is right now, or even more, he would have to excel in MMA. And I'm not saying that he can't, but it's much safer to stay in jiu-jitsu. I do think the UFC would offer him a contract, but I don't think it would be anything too significant to Gordon. Back in March of 2021, it was announced that Gordon had signed a contract with One Championship, the Singapore Combat Sports Promotion. Not very many details from the contract came out, but they made it clear that it was for grappling and MMA if Gordon chose to go down the MMA path. He also never had any grappling matches with One, probably due to the lack of competition. to put up against Gordon. An article by My MMA News was released and said Gordon is no longer with ONE anymore, and Gordon has talked about it since then. With all that being said, this might be one of the more realistic reasons Gordon won't make the transition to MMA. Thanks to everyone who watched my first video. I would love if you guys left me suggestions down in the comments so I could possibly do better on my next video. Yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching.